Welcome to Crosstalk Solutions. My name's Chris, and sadly, I have to report that I've been having a real pesky issue with my Starlink satellite dish. The internet service is working, so everything seems to be working fine. I can get into the Starlink interface. I've tested Starlink with a whole bunch of different network equipment. The actual service is working. The problem that I'm having is one of auto negotiation. So when I take the Starlink cable that comes out of the included power injector and I plug it into any third-party device, whether that's a router firewall or a separate switch, it will either auto-negotiate to 100 megabit full duplex, or it doesn't auto-negotiate at all, but if I manually set a port to 100 full duplex, it works. So since the service has actually been working, the problem hasn't been like super high on my list of priorities to get fixed, but I finally decided to open up a ticket about this problem. Now, what troubleshooting did I do, and sort of how have I tested to know that this is a problem? Well, number one, I know that it didn't used to be a problem, because if you go back to my Starlink and Unify video where I was setting up Starlink with a complete unified network, the port speed in that video is gigabit, right? So it's either orange if it's 100 megabit or green if it's gigabit, and you can clearly see in that video that the negotiated port speed is green, or 1 gigabit full duplex. Now, if I plug it into that USG, however, it auto-negotiates to 100 full duplex, and the port speed indicator is orange. So that's in the USG. Right now, I have Starlink plugged into a 16-port Unify Lite switch down in my garage, and the port speed again is auto-negotiated at 100 megabit full duplex. I have also tried plugging the Starlink directly into this Edge Router X, and again, it auto-negotiated at 100 megabit full duplex in the Edge router. I also tried in a pfSense or a Netgate SG1100 pfSense firewall appliance, and in that device, it would not auto-negotiate at all, but if I set the port speed manually to 100 megabit full duplex, then I could get Starlink to work. After testing this thing out and realizing that, yeah, this is probably an issue, I went ahead and emailed Starlink support, and to their credit, man, they got back to me really fast. So within an hour, I had a response, and it basically says, "Hello, Chris, thank you for reaching out to the Starlink team. We have taken a look at your Starlink hardware and have noticed an alert that could indicate potential cable or port damage." Right off the bat, that's pretty cool. So the Starlink tech support team has the ability to sort of dial into my Starlink dish, and there's some sort of alert or something that's telling them, some error that's telling them, yes, there is actually a problem, and it's likely the cable. So what they want me to do here is troubleshoot, and there's a list of 8 items to troubleshoot. Another thing that I noticed about this is they did get back to me within an hour or so with this list of 8 things to troubleshoot. So this is probably a canned response. To me, it indicates that they already had this prepared, and so this is probably an issue that not just I'm experiencing, but other people have experienced as well, because they were ready to just shoot this list of items that I need to take care of right away. So it says, if you can, please provide us with the following. 1, can you provide us an image of the ports where the Ethernet is plugged in along with the ends of the Ethernet cables? We are looking for visuals of the pins. We have attached some sample images to this ticket to show you exactly what we're looking for. In editing this video and looking at that picture that I just put on the screen, it kind of made me realize that I think that might actually be the problem. When I went through and checked everything yesterday, I didn't really notice that it looked exactly like it does in the picture. And you're not going to be able to see this, but essentially, on the white side of this PoE injector, the 8th pin, the one all the way on the right, is just down maybe like a millimeter or 2, less than that. It's just a little bit lower than the rest of the pins, as if it had been sort of like pushed down or damaged in some way. So what we're going to try right now is the old paper clip, right? I'm going to stick this in there, and I'm going to try to sort of pry it up to see if I can't get a better connection out of that last little pin that's in this PoE injector. All right, operation was a success, and this has happened before though, where I unplug it and plug it back in. As you'll see a little bit later in the video, when you plug it back in, it'll go to gigabit for a while, and then it'll switch back, or it'll revert to 10100 or 100 megabit full duplex. So I've adjusted that one little pin in the PoE injector. We'll see if it actually holds this time. Spoiler alert for later in the video, they are sending me a new power brick, but if we can get this one fixed, at least we know what the problem was, and it might help someone out there that's having this same issue. Okay, back to the video and back to the other troubleshooting steps. 2, make sure there are no bends in the cable. If it's wrapped up at any point, make sure it's not tight enough where data could be throttled. All right, checking for hard bends in the cable. Doesn't look like anything here. It's this black cable right here. Nothing severe there. All right, no hard bends all the way to the dish. 3, if it's jammed between any doors or windows. I do have the cable running under the door here, but it doesn't really actually squeeze the cable or anything, as far as I can tell. Yeah, it's really almost straight through. There's no pressing against the cable really at all. 4, check the cable for any nicks or cuts. All right, next I'm going to go through the entire length of cable and check for any scratches or nicks or dings in the black cable that leads all the way out to the satellite dish. All right, all good, no nicks in the cable whatsoever. 5, check the RJ45 connector for any bent pins or damages. 6, check the ports on the power supply for any debris or damage to the power supply pins. See attached photos of what damaged power supply pin could look like. I don't see any damage or dirt or debris inside the ports, but we're gonna give them a little bit of a shot of canned air anyways, just to make sure there's nothing in there. 7, to rule out possible issues with the Starlink router, we also recommend bypassing the router and connecting a laptop/computer directly to the power supply injector where the router would normally go. So I don't need to bypass their router because I've plugged this into a whole bunch of different things. And I've tried different cables as well and have had the same issue. But in all of my testing here, notice now that we are gigabit connected. So something must have knocked loose when I was going through and checking the cable, or who knows what, but it looks like something has now fixed it. And the question is it going to stay? Well, I spoke too soon. It's definitely still not working. As you can see, the light here is orange, which means that it is still negotiating at 10100 instead of gigabit. But like if I pull it out and plug it back in, it should start off negotiating as gigabit. There you go, see it's green now. But after a little while, it seems like, after an hour or so, it will go back to negotiating at 100 megabit. And one of the cruddy things about that is that while it was negotiating at gigabit, I was running some speed tests upstairs in my office, and I was getting, 217 megabits, 206 megabits, 175 megabits. So it was working at faster than 10100 speeds all the way up through to my office when it is negotiating at gigabit connectivity. So I sent all of the information that I gathered yesterday over to Starlink, and they responded back pretty quickly, basically saying that they're noticing a problem with the power brick and they are going to RMA that power brick. So what I'm going to do now is just leave it as is, kind of do a little bit more testing as I see fit, and then once the new power brick arrives, I will replace it, send the old one back to Starlink, and we'll see if that resolves the problem. All right, final update for this video. You can see that we are still at 100 megabit full duplex. So now we're just gonna wait for that replacement power brick to arrive and then try it again. Hopefully that fixes it. Before I close out this video, let me talk about two things related to this issue. Number one, Starlink is still a beta product, right? So am I mad about the fact that there's an issue with my power brick and I'm gonna have to have it RMA'd? Absolutely not. And why is that? Because it's a beta product. It's beta. You're expected to have issues in a beta. It's not going to be perfect. But I can imagine a lot of people in comments saying, oh, see, this is why I don't like Starlink, and, you know, what a piece of trash, or, you know, Elon Musk can go take a flying leap, or whatever you're going to say in the comments. I'm not mad about this at all. I think it's a perfectly normal part of this process, and I'm glad to be contributing towards the success of what will hopefully be the final flawless product, right? The final flawless Starlink kit. The second thing is that dealing with Starlink support has been actually really good. So the technicians that I've dealt with have responded to me within about an hour each time that I've sent in an email. And they've given me a decent amount of information or troubleshooting steps or whatever on the first reply, right? So I'm not having to go back and forth with them, you know, hours and hours and hours of emailing back and forth with their support. It's been minimal conversations with them because they're getting it right the first time, and they're doing it with a really positive attitude. You know, the attitude that I get from the canned emails is like, hey, we're Starlink and we're here to help you. So sorry you're having this trouble, but we're gonna get you through it, that kind of thing. So it's a night and day difference over any other support channels that might be sort of dismissive of this kind of problem, and I really, really appreciate that they've been just been really nice. All right, so there you have it. Now we just wait for this RMA to happen, and I will do a follow-up video once I receive the replacement unit to see if the problem is resolved. In the meantime, if you like this kind of content, make sure you subscribe to Crosstalk Solutions. We're doing about 2 videos a week of this type of content, so make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss anything. All right, my name is Chris with Crosstalk Solutions, and we will see you in the next video.